160 years ago, coal miners at Castlecomer, County Kilkenny, discovered something that caught the attention of the entire scientific establishment. They discovered fragments of an ancient world, a landscape of alien forests unlike anything we have today. Strange beasts no longer living, giant amphibians the size of crocodiles, and animals that looked and moved like modern-day snakes, though living millions of years before reptiles even evolved. In 1864, at a place called Clough here in Kilkenny, men of science were summoned to investigate something strange that had been found in the Jarrow Channel, an exceptional 4-foot seam of coal. 50 metres below the ground, Trinity College man William Bucky Brownrigg and Charles Galvin of the Geological Survey of Ireland examined the remains of ancient creatures captured forever in the rock. Okay, so Ireland actually does not have a lot of rock from the time of the dinosaurs, the Mesozoic. People are probably quite familiar with the Triassic, the Jurassic and the Cretaceous. But we do have a lot of rock in Ireland from a time before that called the Carboniferous, which is the time when the coal formed. And this is when we get a lot of our limestone from. A lot of it looks a bit like this, and it was originally made up of the bodies of millions and millions of tiny little sea creatures, leaving the hard parts of their bodies behind to form this very particular kind of rock. And it's a great rock for finding fossils in. Of course, the reason why people were digging at Castlecomer was this stuff here, which is, of course, coal. And coal is a type of rock, though it has its origins in organic things or living things. And the coal that we have here at Castlecomer is from the Carboniferous times, meaning that it came from the Carboniferous coal forests, those giant tree ferns and those giant horsetails. Those forests all became the black stuff that was mined right here at Castlecomer. So I'm here with some of the fossils from our fossil collection, and of course a fossil is an impression of a living thing left behind on the rock. It could be an animal, a plant, or even something else. And of course fossils can take the form of footprints or skin imprints in some cases. They can be hard parts of an animal, such as a trunk or a stem of a plant, or the bones of an animal, or perhaps even the shell or hard outer body like an exoskeleton of an animal as well. One of the reasons why the Castlecomer finds were so important is that they featured a lot of amphibians from the Carboniferous time, and those are actually quite rare. Prior to this we had very few of them because it was a swampy, hot time where peat was forming. The waters where they were living tended to be extremely acidic and therefore not an ideal place for fossils to form, and that's why these finds were so rare and so special. Professor E.P. Wright of Trinity College succeeded in financing further excavations in the mine, revealing a whole range of new prehistoric animals previously unknown to science. When he wrote to the famous paleontologist Thomas Huxley, Huxley travelled to visit the site as quickly as he could. Later, Huxley wrote, "I returned last night from a hasty journey to Ireland, whither I betook myself on Thursday night, being attracted vulture-wise by the scent of a quantity of Carboniferous corpses. The journey was as well worth the trouble as any I ever undertook, seeing that in a morning's work I turned out 10 genera of vertebrate animals, of which 5 are certainly new, and of these 4 are labyrinthodonts, amphibia of new types. These 4 are baptized Ophiderpeton, Lepterpeton, Ichthyorpeton, and Keraterpeton. This extraordinary animal shows how remarkable the Jarrow finds were. 4 individual megalocephalus were found at the pit, though they were originally identified as a different animal and were reclassified in the 1970s. They were early tetrapods, or animals with 4 legs. Megalocephalus was, in form, very like today's crocodiles or alligators, and its lifestyle may have been similar too. This despite the fact that it was an amphibian, like a frog or a newt, but one that lived millions of years before the evolution of reptiles. And this creature, Ophiderpeton, looking rather like a snake or perhaps an eel, though it is neither. Again, it is an amphibian, living long before snakes or any other reptiles were around. When animals develop similar body forms and similar lifestyles, despite not being closely related, we call it convergent evolution. So the timing of these finds, it's 1864, it's about 5 years after the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species by Natural Selection. Really important. This is still a time when evolution is being fiercely debated all around the world. They couldn't have come up at a more interesting time. Not only that, but the involvement of Thomas Huxley in this affair was also huge. He was one of the biggest names in British zoology at the time, and he'd earned himself the name Darwin's Bulldog by travelling around the world fighting Darwin's case for evolution at a time when Darwin himself was far too ill to do so himself. So this story here was part of a much bigger debate going on around the world at this crucial time. So if you're interested in finding out more about this incredibly important story from the history of science, come and visit Castlecomer Discovery Park. We run public programs about scientific topics, including this one and others. And you can also visit our Footprints in Coal Museum, which retells the story also. So visit us at discoverypark.ie.